Okay, let's have a look at this. I want to talk to Colin Riddell. Now, Colin phoned us some little while ago, and he was talking about in particular, the way dugongs and sea turtles were being slaughtered. And it inspired a certain amount of comment, including from one caller that I remember from an Indigenous background, who essentially said, well, yeah, they do kill the turtles alive and leave them lying on their back to die in the sun, but when you consider cruelty to animals generally, maybe it's not such a big deal. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he told me. So the 7:30 report subsequently have followed this story up, and Colin's an activist. He's trying to get something done about what is not just cruelty, but an illegal trade. And this investigation found deeply confronting footage of the killing of innocent dugongs and sea turtles. Well, when we say they're innocent, I guess they are innocent. That's true as far as it goes. But the footage was aired on the 7:30 report that shows the brutal methods used to hunt the animals, with the turtles being butchered alive, and that's what Colin put to us whenever it was that he phoned some time back. And dugongs being drowned as they're dragged behind boats. Colin Riddell's on the line once again. G'day, Colin. How are you?
Oh, good, Mike. Really good. I'm really happy that what I spoke to you about a few weeks ago, well, I've been able to prove. Bob,
and you've got this attention from the ABC. You ran this thing on the 7:30 report. By the way, I'll just mention, as part of your description, you're a former abattoir worker, so it's not like you have delicate sensibilities when it comes to the slaughtering of animals. You've seen animals slaughtered en masse, and you know what's involved, right?
Yeah, I actually shot them. I worked at all stations except the skinning, right through the abattoir chain for 7 years, and I'm no bleeding heart conservationist. I've pointed that out many times.
Yeah.
It's got up my nose 2.5 years ago, and I took it on. And I had the young bloke Rupert Einhoff, who's named in the story. He's an ex-Sea Shepherd undercover operative. He was over in Tarjee with the Cove Warriors, where they slaughtered the dolphins, and he called me on Skype. I was talking to another lady over there, and he was sitting with her, and he said, I want to come back to Australia and help you. And he's an Aussie from Melbourne. And 5 months later, he rang me up and said, I'm in Cairns. What do you want me to do? And I said, well, I want you to prove that's how they kill them. So we started an operation. It was just Bob Irwin and I and him involved. We hired a charter. The captain was unaware of what we're doing. We just said we're going up there to see how they do traditional hunting. I couldn't go up because I'm too well known in Cairns, and he went up and had spy sunglasses on, and he captured all that footage. And there's some of the other footage there was sent to me by other people, but 2/3 of that footage was ours, and one piece wasn't, where they were arguing with the dive crew. Wasn't my footage, someone else gave them that, but all the other stuff we put together, and it wasn't cheap. But, when you're passionate about something and you've got people who care, and Bob Irwin's been our public profile, but young Rupert deserves, a medal. That young Australian is a champion. He's a young businessman from Melbourne. I won't say what his business is, but he's searchable, but he's just a fine young Australian, and that's what we need. And I've proved to Australia that's how they kill a turtle today in 2011.
Well, I remember you telling me, among other things, that they... And tell me if I haven't got your words quite right here, but you said they kill the turtles, they butcher them, they leave them alive, upside down in the hot sun just because they can.
Yep.
That was essentially what you told me, right?
Yep, correct.
Let me just read this to set it up for people who maybe haven't caught up with the story. Both dugongs and turtles, because there are a number of issues involved here, both dugongs and turtles are protected by federal law, but the Native Title Act gives an exemption to traditional owners who can hunt to satisfy their personal, domestic, or non-commercial communal needs. I'll come back to that point in a second. The traditional hunting methods are seen by animal activists as deeply cruel. Well, cruel is cruel is cruel. I mean, I don't think you have to be some kind of fanatical animal activist to recognise what's being done is extraordinarily gratuitously cruel. But Queensland exempts native title hunting from its animal cruelty laws, which is ridiculous because... See previous comment, cruel is cruel. Lawyer and advocate Rebecca Smith says conservation groups avoid criticising Indigenous hunting. She said it's too hard, too prickly, too sensitive. It's often deemed that people who are opposed to traditional hunting are called racist, but there's nothing racist about saying this is cruel. So one of the issues raised here, of course, is if you can just pigeonhole your critic and say, oh, they're racist, presumably that's like a magic thing in this country,
yep.
And no further conversation need ensue. But to go back to the Native Title Act, traditional owners who can hunt to satisfy their personal, domestic or non-commercial communal needs. I think there's a couple of points about this I'd like to get to your reaction on. One is they are not hunting in the traditional way. They're not using spears or clubs or whatever was originally used. I don't know whether Indigenous people had nets, I suspect not, but they're not using those methods. And there is a strong commercial element in all this.
Yeah, you're totally correct. See, it doesn't actually worry me the way they hunt them, because the simple fact is that we evolved too. So that part I don't hold against them, but no one's ever determined how many they should take because there's no bag limit. So the flaw in the Native Title Act, Section 211 1993 is there's no process. So unless we find out how many's there, for starters, so that's why I need a moratorium for a period, probably a year or 2 years, to find out how many's there. And then we need to determine how many they can take. And then there should be a strict permit system, like you're getting a tree fern out of the bush or whatever. You've got to have a permit for that. Now, if we don't have that, it doesn't matter what they go out in. If they go out in a canoe and they can catch, 50, if they take 50 canoes out, or if they go out in a jet boat, I don't really care. But as long as they only take what is sustainable under a permit system. But as it stands now...
But my point about that, if I can just interrupt you for a second, of course, if they were to go out in dugout canoes with spears, that would frankly be self-limiting. But if they go out in a jet boat with rifles, it's going to mean that they can much more efficiently kill a lot more turtles and dugongs.
With no bag limit, yes. But if there's a bag limit and a proper process, if they went out in a super yacht, I couldn't care less. If they only took 5 turtles and 3 dugongs, and that's their permit system, that's fine. I don't care how quick they catch them. But if there's no permit system, no bag limit, they go out and catch 5 a day. Now, they caught 6 out there just on Green Island a week ago. 6 turtles were caught, and normally they go out there and they catch 3 to 4. And this is in a green zone where you're not allowed to even pick up a shell. And that's the ridiculous part. That's what's causing the conflict. But also, like you mentioned earlier, the Queensland Government has an exemption in the Animal Care and Protection Act 2001. Section 8 excludes Indigenous hunting, the only state and territory in the whole of Australia. And that's another thing I want to fix. So the two things that have been on is the Native Title Act to get a process and get a permit system. But until we determine how many's left out there, Mike, we shouldn't be killing them at all. We should have a permit system after we determine whether it's sustainable. And no one's ever determined it's sustainable. I'd love you to ring any minister, Tony Burke, Garrett, any of them that were in the past portfolios, ask them how many are killed a year, because no one has a clue. No one can ever dispute a figure. The 2004 JCU Law Review guesstimated 1,600 dugongs a year are killed and 20,000 fresh and seawater turtles. Now, if you do that from 2004 till today, how many have been killed? And we're supposed to have 50 to 80,000 dugongs. Now, the people that I speak to that work up in the Cape, and they've been there for 20 years, tell me that the herds are down to about 10,000. I just had a friend come back from the Cape via boat very slowly. He saw one big pod at Bathurst Bay of 200, and that's where they're going to build a new gas coal seam terminal, so there's another peril for them.
Yeah.
But the mission that I'm on is Indigenous hunting, nothing else. And we proved to the nation last night, and I know I've excited the nation. I've been flat out all day. I've answered 250 emails. My phone's melted. I've been on more shows than Poker Stiga. I just wanted to come back and tell your listeners, and I know someone scoffed at me, because people that follow me down in Canberra, when they listen to your show, they rang me straight afterwards and said there was some galah on there disputing what I was saying. I've proved to the nation how they kill them. I've shown the inhumane way they're dispatched. That is not a way to kill an animal anywhere. And like I said, I worked in the AB 7 years. I saw 2 instances of cruelty. One was cutting a cow's throat alive, and I won't tell you what I told the bloke that did that. But, I've proved to them that happens, and now it's up to the government, this weak, insipid government, federal and state, to do something about it. And they come out today and declare they're going to have an inquiry. What about when Greg Hunt, the Shadow Minister of the Environment federally, asked a year ago to Tony Burke and Anna Bligh to have a federal CMC inquiry into illegal trade, because the proceeds of that is a crime, so it comes under CMC, and they scoffed at him. They sent me a letter, I've seen it, and they scoffed at him. Today they're all on TV because there's an election in 20 days, all screaming, yeah, we're going to have an inquiry, and Anna Bligh's crying on TV. What a joke. I scoff at them, Mike. I really get angry when I see that on TV. Where have they been for the last 2.5 years while I've been screaming this? And I've been on every radio station, 6PR in Perth or Howard, Darren Hinch, that many times with Darren, was on there again yesterday, in Adelaide, everywhere, trying to alert Australia. Finally, I got it out there on the 7:30 report. I applaud them. I did negotiate for 60 minutes for 3 months, and they let me down a fortnight ago. And I'm so happy to have it out there in the open.
But even so, you seem to have got the locomotive rolling, and it's taken you a little while to get to this point. But if you can maintain the momentum, then you might get something done.
Well, Sea Shepherd joined me today. They put it on their main blog site and all of their worldwide sites. They've joined the fray. They've chased the Japanese home. They've only killed a tiny portion of the whales they were killing. So they can devote their time now. We've got the Steve Irwin down there in Melbourne. Captain Watson's in Sydney, I think, Monday. So if you want to interview him, he's in the fray too. And I welcome him. As I welcome Peter Bethune, the bloke that couldn't drive the ship properly when he crashed into Shanamaru. They've been great mates, you know. I've had a lot of support, and my best mate down there in Melbourne, Darren Hinch, he's been absolutely fantastic, you know. He had a bit of a hiatus for a while where they locked him up, you know.
Yeah, they did, yes.
He's back now and his gums are going, and I love the bloke, and I just appreciate getting on your shows to tell the people in the southern states what happens up here every day, and it happens every day. It's not an isolated incident. That isn't just, you know, one out of the box. What you saw last night is the normal way they do it, and I've been trying to prove it, and thank God I have.
Well, good luck with it, and thanks for coming back on the program. I thought it was certainly worth following up, and I was particularly interested to see that we'd had that conversation, but now you are getting the word out, and you're getting attention from other media, and good for you.
Thanks very much, Mike.
All right, Colin.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye. That's Colin Riddell. It's 9:27. By the way, the Mighty Sea Eagles did get home.